With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker. The future is feeling.
All signs point to Detroit, and all chances for the championship all come through Belle Isle. Today, it's the Precision Racing League's F3 Series from the Belle Isle circuit on iRacing. It's the 9th round, and it's here on RaceSpot. Justin Prince, Derek Watson with you, Rafael Sankey producing as we get set for a bumpy one here in the Motor City. Looking over at some of the shadows across the Detroit skyline as well as the Windsor skyline as we get set to go racing. 2 rounds to go, and it comes down to a bumpy one and a hilly one.
It really does, Justin. Comes down to the very bumpy track here at Belle Isle. Next week, the infamous corkscrew will probably get a few guys turned around there in week 10 as we wrap up this 10-week PRL season.
And with how this season has played out, it's been a different one compared to others because just one driver amongst your top rankings in the standings has made it a race, Robert Ridgway. His drop 28 points sees him 3rd. But Julio Palacio with a non-start in round 5 and missing the first race, J.R. Williams, are the top 2. 31 points their difference. Palacio looking to win the championship despite not winning a single race. Williams a one-time winner. Ridgway 3rd. Everyone else in the points has missed 2 races or more, which is not usual for a top 10 run.
No, not typical at all, but since everyone's done it, that's how it works out. But look at that P5, Justin. We were talking pre-race. Takeshi Kita, P5. You'd like to call him sneaky, and I feel like he snuck his way in there to 5th place.
Yes, indeed. Very quietly doing so. But SRT Esport Blue holding on to their team lead by 97 points. They have the most top 5s in the series, double that the next competitor of Precision Racing Esports. But they did jump ahead of Rusty Racing Oxide, 205 points back in the title fight, but 3rd is very much up for grabs. SRT Esport Green you can throw in the mix technically too.
You really could. And you move back, Atomic Geezer's not that far back from P5. Rust Racing Iron, Yeez Motorsport Gold, TB Kart Chile, and then Atomic Left Foot back there in P10.
It should be interesting how things go. As we get set to go, let's talk about the presenting sponsors. Advanced Sim Racing is owned and operated by Passion Sim Racers, which designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount code on ASR products using Precision 5 coupon code. Racebox offers mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts. For the casual gamer, up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are a regular addition to any sim racing setup. Visit RaceBoxSimRacing.com and get a 5% discount code. It's Precision 5 coupon code. Butt Kicker includes products that add incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic. Their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you're looking for a high-end pedal set, a handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. And by Mr. Hedgehog Racing Photography, capture your finest, proudest, or simply worst moments from your hobby in up to 8K resolution. A great addition to any sim room. Getting set to go, and oh, by the way, if you'd like to... ready to race on the bumpy surface.
Yeah, I know you and I have shared some anecdotes in the past about force feedback, and that's one thing about iRacing. I think you don't see if you're a family member watching or a friend, or maybe you're curious about iRacing, so you're watching along. You can adjust how much force feedback you're getting in your wheel and in your pedals live, and it doesn't take much to get a response out of your wheel. And hopefully at some point tonight we'll do an onboard and we'll watch a lap here, and you'll see how bumpy it is. Some of the guys were saying they might need to ice down a wrist or put a cast on with how bumpy this place is. This is like old Daytona for the oval guys, was the best comparison I could think of.
Crane Fuss looking for one of his best starts of the season, by the way. The 55 machine, seeing him and his teammates perform well. Mitchell Ian Green, of course, pulling through for his first career PRL victory last time out. Crane Fuss, no change there. There's a look at Mitchell Ian Green. After having a string of second place runs, first career win last time out, he's now in the All-Star Invitational. 3 different first-time winners in the PRL last week alone.
Yeah, it was really fun to see that stat come by that Joey Tebben put together for us of different winners. And look how narrow this track is. You're always near a wall here. Remember, according to iRacing rules, if you even scrub a wall and get a marker or a demerit or a 0x as we call it, that will wipe off a lap here. Now, of course, we should talk, Justin, before we get in the race. You might be watching going, hey, this is the track I saw on TV a couple months ago. Nope, it's not. This is Belle Isle. This is the track they used before that they went back to the downtown circuit. So we've seen some infamous moments here, but this is not the track you saw on TV a couple months ago.
Looking at some of the various drivers, Boris Savando in the 10th position so far. The middle of the field, just 21 entrants today. One of our smallest starting grids of the 2023 Season 3 campaign. Still the chance of a lot of trouble because, again, there's a lot of chances to make passes if you're brave and you're not afraid of losing your front tire. For the most part, you're waiting for others to make mistakes, unless it's turn 3.
Yeah, you really are, and that's what I was thinking in my head when you said only 21 drivers. Like, man, for how tight and narrow this track is, that might feel like 50 or 60 for these guys. Like, it might feel like the start of like a 24-hour endurance race at, Spa or somewhere with how crazy it could end up being in that first lap. So we always want to see more drivers. And as you said, registration's open next season. So there's a lot of leagues PRL does throughout the week. It starts on Sundays and ends on Thursdays. There's NASCAR Cup. There's IMSA stuff. There's GT3s. There's NASCAR. There's this. There's F4s next season even. So there's plenty of different ways to get in here and race. And hey, maybe you'll end up being featured on a race spot.
Christian Jasper has run solidly when we've seen him make some attempts. 15th though in this qualifying session, so I'm going to make up a lot of time. Keep in mind the difference from the top of the board to the bottom between 1st to 15th, 9/10 of a second. Still pretty tight. And by the way, yes, you're not wrong in terms of if you're seeing the first one on that second portion of the total. That's Takeshi Kita, who is in 17th.
We'll see if in these last 30 seconds or so he can make a run and get up there a little bit. But watching these cars make these corners, it makes me nervous for when we see side-by-side racing tonight, how well they are or are not going to be able to hold it together in this moment. But Calix Poon right now holding on to that pole in a very dominant fashion, despite how small the gap is. Like, no one's really come close to hitting it yet. And here's Stephen Verity, by the way. It's his first race back after moving to the West Coast. Now, Justin, he left New York. He said he was tired of the heat. Now, I'm going to talk Fahrenheit for a second. So pardon me. I'm not talking, all the other stuff. Here in Portland, the past 3 days, it has Monday, high of 107. Tuesday, a high of 104. Wednesday, a high of 103. Today, a high of 95. He did not escape the heat by moving to Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
So the 107, I think, is 41 Celsius, if I remember right, by the way.
It's still very hot, yes.
It's very hot.
Calix Poon, less than 90 seconds to go. On the runoff, the checker flag already waving. Grazing the wall yet again, but looking like the time may stick here. A 121.7. That set early on in the qualifying session. In fact, on his 3rd attempt on the track. He has that over Verity and Ian Green, so the two teammates looking solid. A 2-3 for the Rust Racing cars.
And that's a good run there. And, I was thinking about this Verity thing for a second, Justin. Maybe he brought the heat. Maybe I need to be mad at Stephen Verity for the heat in Portland, Oregon.
Then there's Nicholas Calander. So what goes through your mind when your teammates are second and third at qualifying, and your best lap is 3 seconds slower nearly?
I think what it does is it gives you a little bit of frustration, obviously, but a little bit of hope. That means it's possible, right? You know that the setup says it's possible to get in there and make something happen. Now you just got to find it.
To Nicholas Calander's disappointment, that was the second best lap of the session by 1,000th of a second. No change. And that means end of qualifying. All drivers who could set times already off the circuit. So just about set to go racing here today. Let's take a look how we start today. It's St. Colive Racing by 36 ticks. Calic Poon up on the pole. Verity alongside in second. Ian Green and Williams, Blasio and Cranefuss, the top 6. Rust Racing with the pace, 3 of their top 6 cars from that grouping of 2 teams. Atomic Racing's Ryan Miles in 7th. Ovando, Ritters, and Ziti, the top 10. Jake Vasconcelos having a nightmare of a season, starts 11th. Caleb Lehman in 12th. Kita starts in 13th. Thurman in 12th. Ridgway and Jasper. Vargas and Daly. Daly making an appearance after being a former champion of the series a few years ago. James Nonamaker, Carter, and Calander, your 21 entrants here from Detroit. Just about set to go from the Belle Isle circuit. Should be a picturesque race, or so to think. After all, this is a very picturesque location, with this being a state park.
It is indeed. Well, let me follow up with a additional sponsor bump here, Justin. This start here can be very picturesque for Mr. Hedge, depending upon how this start goes here.
Looking over at portions of the racetrack and the view of the Rensen. Waiting for the last few drivers to get things started along the start straight here today. Again, the estimated lap total, 32 laps, 45 minutes, whatever comes first, likely to the 32 based on the season trends. Expecting pit stops, again, in the final 8 laps or so of today's race. Waiting on 3 more drivers before we get things started. Quick final thought, Derek, as we wait for Verity, Ovando, and Ridgway.
Patience and correct overtaking points is the key to this race here. If you make a dive bomb here, you put yourself and your opponent in the wall if you're not careful.
All set and just about ready to go. Glad to have you with us here on RaceSpot. It's the second and last round of the campaign, the penultimate race for the battle for the PRL's F3 Series title. All drivers are ready. Are you ready? Belle Isle all set for its GP layout. To bring us to green, we're underway from the Motor City. Calic Poon with a good start, already single file for the top 2. 2 by 2, a few rows deep as they work their way to turn 3 for the first time. The major send spot of the racetrack. Expect potential attrition early. That's been a danger spot, even in the World Championship qualifiers. Ridgway has already had an issue having to start from the pits, all while others go 2 by 2 with some lockups. No major contact.
Look at how crazy that straight was right there, Justin. Everyone wanted to get into a spot they were happy. Everyone was moving back and forth, back and forth. That was crazy watching that straightaway the first time.
No incident so far. Calic Poon already is gone. 1 second. We're not even at the fountain yet.
Just shows how great of a jump he got on that start in a very positive way. I don't mean that as a negative, but he had a great start on that jump and now coming around here through this corner and just really showing his dominance here in this moment.
Working their way through 9, 10, and 11. When it comes to some of the world qualifiers that just happened with the Dollar Iro 1 for reference, this was another disaster spot. Lots of contact in this area, lots of broken tire axles and tire rods. No such occurrence here in the early going. All of this is while Poon leads by 1.5 seconds in a lap.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive. It really is. And by the way, you can see how much of a single groove track this almost wants to be, except for this back straight. when we get back through the corners, Justin, watch how you can see that groove laid in with the rubber, how the track gets a little darker in the correct line. There is one line to race here for most of this track.
Once those dropping back Ritters you see there, not going to be so easy with Lehman having a problem for a second, but he's up 2 spots regardless, Lehman is. But for the most part, Vasconcelos, the only driver to lose significant time at the opening lap. Ridgway, finding interesting, he started from the pits. He had been qualified in 15th. Now his teammate is having a slide.
And he might have touched the wall there. I couldn't tell if Steven Ritters did from that camera. If not, he came darn close to hitting that wall, Justin. And that's a free spot for your body. And a track where it's hard to pass, you have to take advantage of that when it happens, when you can find a free spot like that.
Ritters slipping back immediately to 16th, so -7 in 2 laps because of that. But I was just about to say, Ridgway with his decision about 11 seconds back. Let's take a look. Vasconcelos, this is how he lost time.
Looked like he maybe just tried to stab on the brakes. He was just a little too close to the driver in front of him, and it just came around on him. I'm not sure if he made any contact, but is there by the new fastest lap up there. Calix Poon is setting it down, Justin. 1:23.244. That's what our leader just threw down on the track. He's already got a 2-second gap on this field.
That's absurd.
It is absurd. Like what? And I mean that. I use these words and I get scared that people would get them or hear them wrong. That's absurd in a very positive way. That it makes me wonder if Calix Poon could have been here the whole season. He talked about where he lives and what time it is. It's roughly what 9 or 10 a.m. for him, if I remember right. If he could race the whole season, these points would look massively different, I do believe.
And again, for those wondering out of context, why is that absurd? He's 8/10 second quicker than the rest of the field. It's lap 3. The only comparable start like this is to Takeshi Kita's run in the F4 series at Long Beach about a year ago.
It almost makes me wonder if he put less fuel in it. Like, how has he got so much more speed? I know part of it is the dirty air. That's a factor in every F3 race. We talk about it. We're going to ride on board here. This will be P3, I believe. It's going to be Mitchell Ian Green. You hear this? We're going to watch this along here and see. We're going to ride along, but I would think with how close they are, this draft should be helping them catch Calix Poon, not slowing them down.
Still stuck in the line, Ian Green working with his teammate. And with these types of races, this is almost kind of the way the pattern usually goes here at Belle Isle. You find someone to work with, chance to save fuel. If they hold you up, you make the pass. If they aren't holding you up, you use them until they aren't utilizational anymore, I should say.
Yeah, so the reason I wondered if maybe Poon has put less gas in the car, just to explain it for those who are watching along, I know you know, Justin, is that less fuel would make the car lighter and therefore make him faster.
Correct.
I'm just wondering that I don't have any proof of that. That's just what I'm wondering about.
And that's the thing. There is a 50% fuel limit in this series, so there's already fuel out of it in the first place.
You take another 5% out on top of that, and that's think about when we turn laps in endurance racing for 24-hour races, whether it be Spa or Daytona or 12 hours of Sebring. Like a car with no gas typically goes faster, or a car with less gas goes faster. A car with no gas doesn't go anywhere. He's still laying down laps. This is Calix Poon's world, and we're just living in it.
He's right now in a great spot for a second win on the season. Looking at some of the battles, meanwhile, Placio has not done much so far in this one. And again, this is just the absurdity of this year's championship. Top 5 is still enough because his teammate Jared Williams is only close championship rival. It's only 1 spot ahead and needs a lot more points difference.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And then Robert Ridgway came into tonight 53 points back. And he is not on my board right now.
Yeah.
So he's at least 17th on the grid, or on the
20th.
On the pylon, sorry.
So that's the interesting choice for Ridgeway, even with the championship fight, to take that as a factor. And that's the tough thing. When you're battling for the championship, do you say, I'm going to try to push hard at track, say if you're comfortable with that or not? Or do you take the drop at the track you're not comfortable with that and hope the finish that isn't so good is a better points haul? Here's not a maker, meanwhile.
That's that got some assistance there. I don't know who that was in a red car. He got some assistance in getting looped around there, Justin.
Yeah, that was Vasconcelos.
Sorry, I mean, it looked like someone was just late on the brakes there. Vasconcelos, I believe you said.
Yep, and how do I know? His wing is damaged.
It's a good way to know. It's interesting you having this conversation right now about how to race as a points leader. We just had this last night in the Wednesday night Xfinity series. Terry Radford and myself with, our points leader not loving road courses, and that was the last of the 4 road courses on the Xfinity schedule. And how would Richard Regan drive it? We just had the same talk last night. I think with the lead you have, you race it conservative, you don't make any mistakes, and then next week work itself out.
It just got even stranger for Robert Ridgeway. He just pit on lap 6, Derek.
Yeah, I saw you put that out there. So I think this is, I call it backwards pitting. Maybe you have another name for it. But you said they would all pit with about 8 laps to go. He's just doing the math backwards. 32 minus 6. He can get there at for the end with that idea, I would think. So unless there's damage I didn't see.
And there it is on the replay. He had no problems with the car. Gained 1 spot since starting from the back. Stayed out of all the traffic. And just topped off in 4.5 seconds, 5 seconds on fuel.
So here's the idea behind it. Let me explain it to you for the people at home. What we're seeing right now with all these drivers in this line is you're in a line, that dirty air is killing your car. You're having a moment. That's in replay, by the way. He didn't put a NOS on the car or anything. That's a fast forward to that, trying to catch you back up here. But what happens now is he'll be in clean air. He'll get to run his laps. He'll get to make up his pace, his timing. He won't be bound by the cars in front of him in that big snake. And he's hoping to find some speed and time and eventually catch up in the undercuts when everyone else pits.
We'll have to see if it works out. 55 seconds back. It's the current margin. Take a look at one of the packs forming up. Kita, well, Mr. Sneaky after all. He's being sneaky originally in the end of the session, moving up to 13th. Originally was in the back half of the field, moving to the middle. He's up 2 spots, trying to break away from Brett Thurman and Byron Daly. Now, Byron Daly, a former regular in this series, was a championship contender when Ninja Trader had their own respective team in this series back around 2020, 2021. Has been very busy since then. He's that orange and black car. What is he doing? Well, on top of sliding his tires, is now an engineer with RCR and just so happens to be a one-time crew chief in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, while being one of the top respective go-kart racers in the Charlotte area.
Yeah, that's a good career if you can get it. Turning your love of racing hobby into a career at RCR or any team. That's the goal for, I think, a lot of people, is to get involved somewhere, whether it be in driving and engineering, whether it be doing what we do and just talking about race cars. We all have a love for what we do, but if you can make it work for you, that's good. Now, coming to Brett Thurman, by the way, I want to talk about this. My favorite quote of the night, when I said, "Hey, Brett, how you feel about the race?" He just looked at me and said, "I'm ready for the Thunderdome." And that's all he said about it. So,
is he calling Detroit a Thunderdome?
I think he meant the bumpiness of the track. I'm not going to comment on the city itself. It's a different conversation.
I mean, we used to, in the Detroit metro area, have the Silverdome.
Yeah, that's true. We've seen the Silverdome, host many moments. Hulk Hogan slamming Andre the Giant. We've seen the Lions choke a few seasons in NFL football. So I think this is the most competitive thing you're going to see in Detroit right now, is this race probably.
I mean, Detroit and the Lions are being favored as one of the potential rises of this year's football season, but this is a racetrack. Let's take that conversation to the fantasy football field instead. Kita, meanwhile, running 122.9s. This is still off the race pace, but they are matched. Everyone's basically matching the same pace except for Poon and Mitchell and Green, who are on another planet.
Yeah, they really are. I'm so impressed by Calix Poon, you know, and I don't like to bring age into the sim racing conversation because A, it makes me feel old, and B, age is just not the factor in sim racing that I think it is in real life. But Calix Poon is what, 17? 16? Do you remember?
Very young.
Very young, yeah, just... Oh, sorry.
Mentioned just getting ready to finish high school.
Yeah, that was a long time ago for me, and he is much more talented in an F3 car than I am. I'm so impressed by this young man and the things he's able to do. Yeah, just walking away almost up to 3.5 seconds now, Justin.
Already coming around. They're getting very close. If it was, that would have been Manuel Vargas. But I do want to say, James Nonamaker has found a way to hit something else. Apparently, he's in the pit lane with a wing change and a lengthy pit stop service for mandatory repairs. Here's the battle for third. Speed's picking up for the SRT cars. Verity has fallen off his own teammate. And now a more slide for Williams.
Oh, man, look at that. You can just barely see it in the broadcast video. The bumps that are happening in that corner were dangerous. Here's Stephen Verity here. Part of Rust Racing Oxide. You can kind of tell it in the color of that car. Man, you saw the front end of that car behind him lift off the ground a little bit. Ugh. You know, I can say, JP, I've never driven this track in iRacing, and after watching it, I think I'm good.
Hey, it's a fun track if you know the layout.
Well,
also, it's a fun track to watch from a boat too. Those boats that you see on the Detroit River across the sim, people really do that from the Windsor side of the border because technically the border for the Canadian-U.S. border isn't really until near the island. There is a border crossing on Belle Isle, so you can't just take your canoe and show up on the Belle Isle. But you can certainly watch the racing from the island, from the river.
Yeah, that's something unique to both of these courses in Detroit, both this one and the street circuit they've used this year in real life, is that both of them have a part or a portion of the track that is visible from the Canadian side. So, kind of a cool thing to think about.
But there's a major difference between that because it's with the one at the Motor City, you basically need to get right up there. And the thing is, if you cross that middle portion, there is a much larger border crossing right there at the Windsor-Detroit Tunnel that is ready to pull you in and say, why are you crossing the border on your boat? With this circuit, you can get some leeway for the event. It's a little bit further out, to say the very least, nearly double the distance between Windsor and Detroit in terms of Windsor to Belle Isle.
Yeah, it's a cool thing to think about just where this track is and just how close to the border. I think sometimes that those kind of geographical things get lost on us as we watch here. You know, if we can go back to Calix Poon, I just want to watch a lap or two for a second. I want to see if there's something we're not seeing as we watch Calix Poon turn a lap here. If we can get up there on the cameras, but I'm just so impressed. Now he's over 3.5 seconds. He's going to come down the straightaway here, Justin. Is it just he's running his own laps in the open air? What are we missing? Oh, got some dirt there.
We'd have to think that's part of it with the clean air. Keep in mind, I'm just going to say this. You may notice some scrapes even with him far from the wall. His internet connection in Hong Kong is holding on barely. Because if it gets any worse, we might lose the leader. So that is not your screens going wonky. That is his connection having problems.
It is painful. Now, I have to ask you here, and I think you're going to groan at me in a second. With how far ahead he is the leaders here, do you think he's just like a small town boy driving in a lonely world? Taking the midnight train to anywhere?
Are you trying to get me to say South Detroit?
No, I'm expecting to say there's no such thing as South Detroit, Derek.
You do know that Windsor is considered South Detroit.
Yes, I know. Yes, I do.
Anyhow, Manuel Vargas has pit and immediately picked up a black flag, by the way. So Vargas will have to serve a drive-through. Indoor stop, go 40. Yes, on the exit. Ian Green just took the purple lap away because it looks like the long run pace is kicking in.
I said, looks like a new challenger has entered the Thunderdome. For the quote we were told earlier, that's a 121. That might be our first venture into someone turning a 121. So now Mitchell Ian Green, look at that, by the way, has closed that gap under 3 seconds. Maybe he's found something.
Have to see it. As this run goes on, see some of the packs fairing out. There's Mitchell Ian Green. The reason I just stumbled on that word is, as I was about to say, we'll see, he hit his left rear tire against the wall.
Yeah, and in these cars, you don't get a whole lot of leeway or a whole lot of grace with moments like that. You can really do some damage with just a simple wall hit here. It's not like taking a stock car or a GT3 around here, you know, you can kind of scrub a wall and be okay. So we'll wait and see what happens to him. But he is still closing that gap. It makes me wonder if maybe his tires are coming in or if Calix Poon is letting up. Go ahead.
We've just had some trouble. It's in the top 10. You notice 2 people may have pit there. Those were not planned. Boris Ovando out. Ryan Miles out. Both getting into contact as you see more slides from Mitchell Ian Green.
Boris Ovando, when I talked to him earlier, said it was going to be a tough race. He was having some hardware trouble earlier. He wasn't sure he was even going to race. Well, let's take a look here.
This is Miles, and this is after Ovando had problems. Back to speed, and that's insult to injury.
Yeah, that's hard to talk about. There's a reference to Detroit right there. What happened? Like, did he? It almost like he just stabbed the brakes. A lot of times in these cars, if you stab the brakes really hard out of like frustration or out of fear, the car behaves very weird. It behaves in a very squiggly, squirrely kind of way. That's got to be what happened there. I don't know what caused him to kind of veer to the right so hard out of nowhere. That was a wild moment, to say the least.
That wild moment, in turn, likely at the end of their respective races, at least one of their cars towing. Would you believe me if I said Miles wasn't the one with the meatball flag, even though he was upside down?
I mean, I've done this long enough that I would, but I understand your point that sounds kind of crazy to say that, yeah, he's not the one with the meatball with the required repairs. But I've been at this too long to let that faze me anymore.
Still, though, we're keeping an eye on Brett Thurman. He's been able to keep that nose clean, keep the edges of the front wing clean. Byron Daly has not given him any space to breathe, though. Even though Daly is on the verge of wrecking loose every lap, he's been right up on the wheel on the pace in the 123s.
Well, you know, the interesting thing about this whole wrecking loose idea is a lot of drivers will tell you, hold on, there's a pass, maybe, nope. The interesting thing about loose is a lot of drivers will tell you loose is fast. Now, every driver has a preference on loose or tight and how they want to drive a car. Some people like them loose, some people don't, but a lot of drivers believe loose is fast. So when you're just kind of wrecking loose, but you're able to hold the car, that's where a lot of drivers' happy spots are. Look at this onboard here. Let's just watch the bumps. Look at that. Bump, bump, bump. I mean, oh my gosh. Your back would have to be sore if this was a real life. If you have a sim rig, a motion rig, pardon me.
Oh, and some contact to the wall for Byron Daly with the right side. No damage, though, to the wheel or the wing. It's just about to say on that comment. The thing is, though, even though that's the case, if you cross the threshold of too loose, you slow yourself down and wreck the car. If it's too tight, to the point where, let's say, you have a setup that where you're having to save the right front tire, that's a different story. Pit stop window open, by the way, from that pack. All while Poon, his gap is 2.5 seconds. His internet still holding on.
Yeah, maybe by, like, I don't know, Band-Aids and a piece of bubble gum might be what's holding it together as far as the internet connection. And Mitchell Ian Green threw down another purple lap, by the way, Justin, right there. Oh, look at that slide out of that corner. Oh, my goodness. I know you commented on it, and you're right, but that is scary.
And those slides coming out of turn 6, very detrimental to some. Again, a slide, this time a hard hit to the wall. Turn 7, he's been really pushing that section. That time he pushed hard to the left side.
So to me, there's two types of loose when we're talking about as a commentator, Justin. There's the ones that you and I react to because we've been at it a while and we can see the small wiggle. We can try to talk about it. And then there's this type of loose where I honestly just watching the broadcast, you can see the back end whipping around. It's like he's doing like the whipping and they whip my hair back and forth kind of thing. But that's scary. Like I can't drive a car like that. And I have so much respect for Mitchell Ian Green for doing that.
And I was about to say to that point was trying to make earlier, the counterpoint in terms of loose as fast is sometimes you're loose and you don't notice, but your competitors say, how are you holding onto the car just like that? For example, remember in the NASCAR Cup Series cars, for example, team owner at the time, Boyd Hogan, was watching me as I was racing along. I was like, aren't you loose? I'm like, what are you talking about? I feel fine. Apparently I was drifting 35 degrees in the corners every corner at Charlotte and gaining time.
Nice.
I didn't tell.
Now, here's the problem, and why you want to have a loose car here is typically the belief is that a car will tighten up over a run. And at a track like this, where it's narrow, there's really a single groove, there's walls everywhere. If you start with a tight race car, you're almost begging to hit a wall here. So you have to start loose and let the car kind of come in. But, I mean, we're 17 and almost 18 laps in, and Mitchell Ian Green is still loose. That's a special kind of loose right there.
Oh, we've had some problems across the track. Daniel Cranefuss is towed, and now Byron Daly, who was in one of those battles we were keeping an eye on, is out without a left front wheel. So 2 separate incidents just happening, and Nonamaker at least is out on the track to try and pick up some spots for them. Here's Cranefuss on his own. Too much grass.
Too much everything. That car literally was a pirate boat rocking back and forth. That's almost like he got it loose and he just never lifted to save it, I think.
As mentioned, Daly's was a separate incident. J.R. Williams coming in just past the halfway point of the race. So the window is indeed wide open. CD and Vasconcelos in. You mentioned usually the Stratas be the first to be able to pit and get space. We'll see. Here's Daly. This is why the front of his car has a lot more space than it needs.
Just cut that wall too close. And that is something that you do have to do at road course racing that feels counterintuitive. You need to really hug those walls and get every inch, every centimeter, every oomph, every whatever you want to call it, out of this track sometimes. Sometimes you cut it too close. You know, the best example of that, Justin, is Watkins Glen, in my opinion. We have to kind of cut that bus stop right there on the right side coming in. And, Watkins Glen will close out road course week here on Race Spot on Sunday when the PRL Cup Series goes there on Sunday night.
And the amount of times I've seen people hit that inside arm cone barrier is really extensive, to say the least. But you're right, if you don't cut that section, that's at least half a second or at least a quarter of a second gone for the bus stop. Speaking of chances make passes, no chance popping up quite yet here, but it is getting close. This is Steven Ritters in 12. Blake Seedy, who already pit but lost time from a spin, is right behind.
You see that gap, by the way, for first and second. This is a great battle right here. This is three or four cars right there. 3 cars together right there, all kind of battling each other. But the lead has grown back to over 3 seconds, and Calix Poon is just walking away with this race again here.
Still very wild. This night is played out as we approach the closing of the window. I think it's important to mention one more thing when it comes to Ridgeway as Nicholas Calander comes in. Ridgeway still last in terms of all the drivers right now outside of Vargas who have pit, by the way. Ritter's not able to make the pass there. But was about to say, Ridgeway just pit a second time.
Yeah, my idea was wrong. I'll own it. I don't know what he pitted the first time for, but it wasn't. Unless I have a new idea, which is that he forgot to put fuel in the car after qualifying. I don't know.
He just took another 5-second stop for reference. For those keeping track on your pylon, here's Blake Seedy with the pack still.
Yeah, so the only thing I can think of for Ridgeway would be when so in iRacing, for those who don't know, when you qualify, whoa, man,
Blake
it gets scarier in the car.
You know, we ended off the race from that slip.
Oh, it's like a bad roller coaster ride. Anyways, I was saying, in iRacing, you can set up a qualifying setup and put less gas in, and then it's up to you to remember to put more gas back in the car to start the race. I wonder if he didn't put gas back in the car. Maybe that's why he pitted on lap 5 or 6.
I was just about to say, though, in regards to that, trouble, Blake CD! Out of turn 2 into the wall.
I mean, we almost saw that coming to a certain extent, Justin. Not to sound mean, but we rode on board there for a few turns, and that was petrifying.
And there goes the wing for the 50, and that's going to be a long ride, likely back to the pit lane.
It's a very unsafe ride back to the pit lane.
Calix Poon continuing. Mitchell Ian Green is in for the scheduled pit stop. 12 laps to go.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off with the wreck there. You want to finish your thoughts about what we're saying about fuel and Robert Ridgeway?
He did say his first ever race at Belle Isle was today.
Yeah, that's true.
So there is that case of, you're not comfortable with the track? Let's get used to the track. He apparently ran in a 3,000 SOF race just today.
Hey, speaking of people who have exciting Belle Isle stories, if we can focus for a second back on P14 with James Carter, if we could put him on camera for a second. I had a chance to talk with James today, and what did he tell me? He told me looks forward to this track. He enjoyed the track a lot when he first joined iRacing. He has an exciting story, though. He has a podium finish here, Justin, where he crossed the line upside down and facing the wrong way, and James Carter got a podium doing that in the Skippies.
And that's a very wild way, let's put it that way, to be able to get a podium.
Not the recommended way to do it.
No. The recommended way to do it is 25 feet above the racetrack.
I've seen that happen too.
Poon and Verity are in. So likely going to see the rest of this pack on in. There are your leaders. Julian Green, for reference, 25 seconds in the pit lane. And Poon has been untouchable today. Off and away. 4.9 seconds. Off and away. And Julian Green still a couple seconds back.
Yeah, I'm staring at pit stop times and pit delta times, and not much variance in it at all. Mitchell Ian Green picked up 0.4 of a second on the pit delta. That's not going to be enough. The one question mark I had, though, was Jake Vasconcelos, an 11-second pit stop. There must have been some heavy damage there from earlier. But yeah.
So everybody's completed pit stop service here in this race. Poon, Ian Green, Verity, and Williams, the top 4. Blasio, your points leader, still in 5th. And Mitchell Ian Green up to speed is pushing and then some. Oh, and Nicholas Callander moving out of the way, nearly missing the corner to do so. Just lost Mitchell Ian Green a 10th from that break for a second. Picks the 10th and 10th, so back up in the Fallon.
And that's a moment that Mitchell Ian Green probably doesn't want to have happen, by the way. That's a common thing we see in road course racing, and I think we talk about a lot, Justin, is when you're getting lapped or you're getting passed by someone, be predictable and let them get around you. If you do what Callander just did, and you go way outside and you hit a wall and you bounce back, that's often worse than just sitting in the line and making him pass you. That's a scary moment. I know he meant well, but those can be major calamity moments.
One of the air trains getting tight is this one. Takeshi Kita's up 7 spots, just pit. The drivers behind him went on the undercut call. Brett Thurman, Steven Ritters, and Caleb Lehman all in a choo-choo train, 6th through 9th.
Yeah, this is a really interesting line right here. If we could get it on board with one of them in the back, maybe with Ritters or Lehman, you're going to see just how tight it is on this track here, and how even though you want to pass Brett Thurman or you want to pass Takeshi Kita, you can't. I mean, look at this. It's hard to find a lane to get around there, much less catching him. But watching this corner here. Where are you going to pass at?
Yeah, and the closer you get, again, the more aero wash you get, and the more aero wash you get, the tighter it gets, which adds to that more difficult portion. That's why everybody separated 4 or 5 car lanes. That's about the size of the bubble.
Yeah, it's about 1 second back, 1.5 seconds back. You start to feel that effect.
But it really intensifies when you get half a second.
Yeah, it definitely does. The closer you get, as you said, the closer you get, the harder it becomes. And that's how you can tell if you have a better car. If you can get in that bubble and continue to close, that should give you the confidence of knowing you can do whatever you want on the track.
Nicholas Colander may be in trouble, by the way, because he does have lap traffic, including this pack ahead. He is being warned by competitors they can no longer see him. His internet connection is not good. It is not bad. It is what's worse than appalling.
Yeah, it's something. I'm trying to think of a word that I could use on broadcast. I don't have one. Abysmal?
But that's a good way to put it. But the reason I mention that, as soon as that's dealt with, guess who has to deal with them next? These cars. Here's the problem with that. If you can't tell where your competitor is, like this, it's kind of hard to let by the leaders.
It's impossible to have the confidence to pass him because you never know where he's going to merge back in.
You see it right there. He nearly turned into Manuel Vargas.
Yeah. And the worst part is Vargas may have never seen it coming.
And technically that was for position, but somebody has to show Nicholas how bad it looks.
Now, one of the great things about PRL is the amount of admins that exist in all of these leagues. Someone will have a talk with him mid-race. This will not be a decision they'll wait till post-race to figure out. They will talk with him and get this figured out.
And there's the difference in how Vargas approaches it. Knows the leader's right behind him. Let's move out of the way before things get bad.
Yep, that's a great move right there. Yeah, one of the great benefits of PRL, if you're thinking about signing up for next season, is these leagues have live admins who help with things and help work things out. They will have a talk with him and say, "Hey, I can't see you. You gotta make something happen here, or pit, or get off the track."
Switch internet providers. Switch internet providers.
Yeah, hotspot from your phone, or use AOL dial-up, or
don't do that. Don't use dial-up. Do not use dial-up. I don't even.
It can't be any worse than what we saw right there.
Not a maker out of the race. Technical issues. 7 laps to go this time.
Do they still have internet dial-up where you live in Canada?
I don't even know if anybody has it.
Oh, there are still some people in the Midwest U.S. who have it.
Well,
yeah, there are.
Oh, yes, because it... Not saying that. But still, looking at the battle, let's talk race cars. Here we go. Ritters, very daring. Thurman having to hold on.
Wow, I talked about no space to pass, and they're going to put it to the test, Justin. And that first corner right there was really tight. Now he's going to get around him and make the pass here and get clear. He'll be under attack again, probably really soon. But all they're doing in that moment, although you want to pass each other, I get it, but you're just giving Takeshi Kita a little bit of space here to breathe and relax while you guys are fighting back there for 7th place. By the way, again, sneaky Takeshi Kita, Justin. P6.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been that type of night again for Kita. After all, he's good on street circuits. A little clip of the curbing. Ritters having to hold on. There's a Takeshi Kita up the track. Very different in terms of the energy level between on his own and this 3-car trio trying to figure out what to do with Christian Jasper closing in to try and make it a, I think quartet's the word.
Quartet would be a word. Yeah, that's 4. That's this very valid word there. Let me finish up the one conversation and we'll move ahead here. We talked about the blinking and the internet problems, and I think that's a misconception across iRacing that we sort of had and fell into. It may not be his internet, by the way. It could be a PC performance problem. It could be a memory problem. It's not always internet. So he may look into that after the race.
You know what?
A lot of times it's your internet.
Yeah, but one thing we should look into Look at the top of the board. Remember, that was 2 seconds at the start and the pit stop. Second and a half and a bit. It's under a second. Poon's lead, it's gone. Mitchell Ian Green has closed the gap. 5 laps to go at the stripe. Calix Poon, who led as high as 3.5 seconds in this race, is now under attack.
That is impressive to see, and I don't know what's changed. I mean, obviously, Mitchell Ian Green has been fast for a while. He was throwing down some great laps in the 121s, but now he's caught up here. Let's see what he can do with this small gap here. Watch on board here. Already got a nice line. See how bumpy that corner was, but up against the wall, it's got to be. You can tell he's kind of trying to run just a slightly different line here, Justin. He's trying to stay out of that dirty air and get a run. See how he's not following behind like we would like a stock car at a super speedway. He is trying to find some clean air to get this car to behave the way he wants it to.
5 laps to go at the stripe. Mitchell Ian Green with the toe. Gonna need to be careful here. Looking for the setup for turn 3. Not quite close enough for the dive quite yet. Might need an air lap.
Not only that, he needs to hold on here and be alert. With Calix Poon also having those small internet problems, where I think Calix said last week he's in Hong Kong, where he's setting up for college. So kind of understandable to have a couple blinks here and there, but still petrifying if you're the car right behind him.
Mitchell Ian Green near it, closing up to the Pure Michigan signs coming up along the banners. Ritters, meanwhile, has had to go into the pit lane. Mandatory damage repairs in that battle that was going on for 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. Jasper up to 9th. Vasconcelos in the top 10 as a result. Keep an eye on the lead still. 4 laps to go.
You're right. We were having so much fun looking at the middle of the pack in all type racing. Honestly, I had missed how close this battle got. This is really impressive here that Mitchell Ian Green closed that 3-second gap down to less than a second here. Ooh, and it looks like, man, I don't know if Poon just caught the wall or kind of scuffed the brakes a little bit there, but you saw a bit of a puff of smoke out of that corner.
Those puffs of smokes have been increasing across this racetrack. Mitchell Ian Green losing some time. Going to need at least an air lap to gather things again. This is the most difficult part again. These two battled back and forth last time. Now they look to do it again. 2 straight weeks. These two classes of the field. Nürburgring GP, now this time in Detroit.
Absolutely, they're both doing great here. By the way, I want to say a quick hello to everyone in the chat over on the YouTube. Base Pep, Josh Plays, Richard Swindells was in there earlier. He might still be in there, but thanks guys for stopping and saying hello. I'm trying to engage with you guys a little bit in there as well and watch this race. But yeah, thanks for stopping by and hanging out here. There's a couple laps left. The Corvette sign we go. And look, there's that puff of smoke again, Justin. Is he just getting too close to the wall and having to slap the brakes to not touch it? Is that what's happening?
I'm not quite sure.
Because he's not slowing it down like he's stopping the brakes, but I don't know where else those puff of smokes would be coming from.
Mitchell Ian Green really feeling the effects of the Euro wash. 3 laps to go, another drift and a slide out. Mitchell Ian Green trying to set up the toe again. Nicely done through 2. Still the same distance as they make their way to turn 3.
Long straightaway, possibly your best passing opportunity if you could set it up out of 2, but hard to do. I mean, there's that puff of smoke. You just got to ride that corner in a way that makes that kick up. That's what you got to do here. And the one interesting thing about this race, Justin, we often talk about the incident points and the off tracks lead to, DNFs and DQs in these races, but there's very little off track here. If you off track here, you're just into a wall.
Hard to the right side of the racetrack is Poon. Now playing the defense, Ian Green nearly to the rear wing. Nearly scrapes the wall as he goes up to the gearbox. 2 laps to go with the stripe.
You can now see Ian Green is closing that gap, which, as we said earlier, Means he has the confidence to think he has the car to make the pass here. He's staying out of the dirty air, gaining some time, using the draft when necessary. And I bet out of 2 into 3 this time, we might see a battle down that straightaway.
Here it comes. Up to the flag stand. In green, looking left. Poon staying right. Crossover in green to the gearbox. Forced the check up, but Poon hits the curbing.
Here's that long straight where I thought he would make a move.
Back to the snake. In green, can't get there for the nose. Having to regroup. Lap and a half to go. Next best chances in the fountain. What a hard lunge in green at the wall. He slides. Forced down to the gas. That might be it for Mitchell in green.
That's probably it with about a lap and a half or a little less to go. That'll probably be his last opportunity to get there. That's a disappointing thing for him. He's got to be heartbroken. He was that close. He just couldn't get there. He's
Still,
not going to give up.
Yeah, still 7/10 back, but needs a mistake from Poon and needs it to happen very quickly. Coming up to the white flag this time by. Gapped out around 6, 7/10. Still not close enough for a pounce. He needs to be within 4/10. Mitchell in green now pounding it off the walls. 1 lap to go this time around. Final lap from Belle Isle. Poon with the good exit. Mitchell in green still with the toe. Not close enough at the lunge. Not even closing down the straight. Poon looking comfortable. 2 more sectors to go.
Yeah, 2 more sectors to go, and probably this is going to be how we're going to finish here. I can't imagine Ian Green has a passing spot left here without a mistake being made, but he is still all over his bumper, just pushing, and you see, oh, yeah, I almost hit the wall there. He's just pushing as hard as he can, but I think this race is over.
Coming underneath the Corvette bridge up to the fountain. Here's slide again, contact again towards the wall. Calix Poon has led every single lap today. Mitchell in green once again applying the pressure. But for Calix Poon, he does it again. 2 more corners to close it. For the 2nd time this season, Calix Poon coming out of the final corner will take the checker flag to win in the PRL's F3 series. He does it over Mitchell in green. Mitchell in green's 3rd second place finish in 4 races.
What a great run by both drivers. It's keeping it tight and interesting the whole time. Meanwhile, behind us here, you see some cars come around, but there's no close battles left on the track. I mean, I guess you might see one for 7th and 8th with Thurman and Lehman. That's about it. That's all that's left.
Things get spaced out here sometimes. And if they aren't spaced out, they are fight aggressive or you end up having troubles. Thurman indeed holding off his teammate Lehman for 7th. Kashikita able to pull away by 3 seconds nearly for the 6th spot. Christian Jasper nearly got there but lost 4 seconds on the final lap. Or a couple laps. And amongst the final finishers, Vasconcelos and Robert Ridgway does get an 11th place finish. It's still a solid points run. This is not enough to stay mathematically eligible for the championship, but should put him comfortable in that fight for 3rd.
Yeah, should put him very comfortable in that fight for 3rd, I would think. You're right, though. I mean, Jared Williams finished 1 point ahead of Palacio. They came into tonight 31 points apart. So Williams has a shot next week, but a long shot would be the right way to say that. But I would think that would pretty much lock up Ridgway there with where Ritter's finished.
Calix Poon takes the win over Mitchell in green. Verity, Williams, and Palacio your top 5. Kita, Thurman, Lehman, Jasper, and Vasconcelos the top 10. 11th spot going to Robert Ridgway. Manuel Vargas 1 lap down in 12th. Carter in 13th. Nicholas Calander in 14th. 1 lap down. Ritter's 5 laps down in 15th. Had issues trying to pass Nicholas Calander. with the technical problems. ZD 16th, Crane Fuss Daly, Noanamaker Miles, and Ovando amongst the drivers, multiple laps down. That's all top to bottom at your running order here today. As we wait on to see which drivers take the time to speak with us here today. Mitchell Ian Green had the fast lap of the day. But Calix Poon doing Poon things. He's here, and he's a winner again. Two-time winner this season, Calix. This time, a rocket ship at Belle Isle. What happened to be that quick in the rocket ship?
I think Swolio just helped me a lot in this track because it's like so bumpy, and then when I practice, the tires are like overheating so much, and yeah, it just kind of taught me a few places to reduce the overheating issue, and then the tire as well, which really helps because like Mitchell Ian Green was like right behind, and I was starting to, like.
Looked loose from up here.
It's not so much that it's loose; it's just the bumps break the traction, so you have to adjust really quickly.
I think if you watch the broadcast back, you might be surprised how it looks from a high up view. But good job tonight. So
yeah, no, it felt loose. Trust me.
So next week is Laguna Seca, our finale. Do you like the track? Do you not like the track? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's nothing not to like about Laguna. It's an awesome track. The corkscrew's iconic. Quality's going to be super important. Passing's going to be at a premium, just like tonight. So looking forward to it.
All right, well, good luck there. Last question. We've started this kind of silly question of the week up in the commentary booth. We're going to ask you, if you go to a restaurant and you order a steak, how do you order it cooked?
Medium.
Medium. Okay, now my follow-up question, because I'm a good reporter and you always have follow-up questions. Do you use steak sauce?
Not if it's a good steak.
Thank you so much. That's it right there. That's the guy, Mitchell Ian Green. He finished second tonight, but after the answer, he's number one in my heart, Justin.
Mitchell Ian Green, second spot tonight. His teammate, Stephen Verity, finishing off in third. 2-3 for the organization, Rust Racing Oxide. Stephen, how was it from your perspective? Top three the entire race, working with your teammate until Mitchell Ian Green did Ian Green things.
That's right. Yeah. That was a great race. And, I mean, it was a little lonely back there in third, but, yeah, I think at one point, Mitch and I were running different setups. I first attributed, him being huge in my mirrors to the different setups. And then it became clear that I was holding him up. So we swapped spots, let him, go after the leader. And, I was basically spent the rest of the race just watching the relative, and seeing him close up, and I was hoping that he'd get the win. But all in all, like, stoked for a 2 and 3 for Rust here tonight, and happy to bring the car home.
And in turn, good positioning when it comes to the team side now. You're in the middle of a battle with Precision Racing Esports for third. How big is that for the organization with that chance to be, well, the league's esports organization?
I didn't know that we were in a battle with them. But yeah, I guess I'm actually not sure if I'll be here next week, but hopefully, yeah, we can pull it together and maybe we can take third. That would be nice.
Well, Derek wanted me to ask you about this. Apparently you moved recently, if I understand, involving the Heat. He wanted me to ask about the Portland Heat.
Yeah. Yeah, I just moved to Portland from New York City. And it was, very hot here this week. But I will say that even when I'm enjoying being here, and honestly, everything's kind of a little bit nicer on the West Coast, and even the heat here is far more bearable. 100 degrees in New York City is insane, and here it's not that bad, I would say. So I'm enjoying it out here.
What he's not telling you, Justin, is he brought the New York Heat with him. He needs to go back. This is awful.
I know, I did. I did. I'm sorry. But it looks like from here on out we're gonna have good weather.
So one final question, also from Derek: if you were to go to a restaurant, how would you order your steak?
Medium rare.
Okay. The follow-up question: steak sauce or no steak sauce?
No steak sauce.
Let's go.
Derek is happy. Congratulations.
Why would I buy a nice steak and then put sauce on it? Or cook it the way that they don't want it cooked, So
Perfect way to think about it. Stephen Verity coming away in third, Mitchell Ian Green second, Calix Poon in first. Thank once more for all of them for the time to speak with us here on RaceSpotTV. Derek, everyone made you happy, but WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Sega's up next to close out the championship. And it could be an intriguing one. We may have a no-race winning champion this year.
Yeah, that may be a thing. I want to follow up, by the way, I did get a hold of Robert Ridgway. I was right. He had his quality set in, Justin. That's why he pitted twice.
Well, that was not unfortunate for Ridgway, but still chances to be fortunate here, although we've seen crazy races here on RaceSpot there at Laguna Seca for a reason.
Yeah, we have. That corkscrew is going to turn a few people around. And yeah, it's exciting to see. There's a lot of turns here besides the corkscrew, a lot of elevation. These cars will have a couple blind spots, blind hills, blind corners. I'm excited. It's championship week for the PRL.
On that note, we'll see that on August the 23rd, starting at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time here on RaceSpot. On that note, it's time to say goodbye. For my broadcast colleague, Derek Watson, for Rafael Senke, I'm Justin Prince saying so long, enjoy the rest of your day or evening. You've been watching the 9th round of the PRL's F3 Series from the Belle Isle Circuit. Congratulations to Calix Poon, your winner from Detroit.